as you something that can be classic. And I think when you do this and when you work it on someone that is young, you know, has a bit of attitude, has something about them, has, you could say, a little bit of swagger, you know, you're kind of contradicting, you know, styles, and it can look really fresh. So, you know, we're working with a very classic side parting. So with the horseshoe section, the horseshoes worked very subtly offset, working up to the parting line. And we've worked in with the clippers initially, and this is something that's quite new to Tony and Guy as well. And if you want to find out more about that, then you can inquire about our men's cutting course. So we're working from a zero into a graduation, working with the clippers quite freehand until we reach a point where we can work into a scissor over comb. And you can see that with Josh's hair, I've stacked this line out quite heavily. You know, I want almost like a corner on the side of his head. You know, we're taking that away, working the graduation in. Through the top, we're going to work with some offset layering. The hair's going to be dressed, slicked off the face. And the idea of this haircut is that it's not one-dimensional. You dress it in different ways, depending on how you're feeling. So, you know, working with a comb, you know, something like the Label M texturizing wax stick, which is very malleable, but has a really high shine, strong hold. And then you can dress the hair in so many different ways, you know, changing your quiff. And I think it's quite cool when a guy has a comb in his pocket these days, you know, it's something quite fresh. My granddad used to do it, you know, so I'm trying to bring it back. So this is the refades. Thank you, Eamon.
Thank you, Jodie. And that men's 3-day course at the Academy, Jodie heads up, and trust me, it's a really, really amazing course. It takes you right on a journey from the past techniques right the way through to the future. A great course. Okay, so 50-50 was, it's a combination of 10 models, 2 boys, and then we've got the 8 girls working with the colour techniques. And let's start looking at the cutting techniques now of the 50-50. So I'm going to pass straight over to Maria Galati.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. So the haircut that I'm working on is called the ID. It's the longest haircut from the collection, and it's also the front cover. The idea behind the ID is to maintain a lot of weight on long hair, but to create something interesting and to create a seamless layering technique. We're going to bring back a classic technique through the front area. We're working with a forward graduation, but working it internally, so we're actually leaving the hairline much heavier. So we get that contrast, and the way that the hair is worn originally is it's flipped over to one side, so those layers start to become visible once the hair is worn over. And we also end up creating more height through this top area from the layers that are through the top. So through the back, I've already worked with a freehand technique, so a little bit of elevation and then just slicing through the hair so that there's no obvious layering, but we do remove some weight to create some of the movement. Having a look at the past, so working always with professional models, we were looking at the Storm Models campaign that we worked with in the 90s. We're working with professional models, we worked with the new faces of Storm to create their collection. And looking at current day icons such as Cara Delevingne and the Miu Miu campaign for a real effortless glamour. Through this top area I'm just layering through, so I'm working shorter through the front, longer through the back, using techniques such as point cutting and slicing to keep it really soft and seamless. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maria. I'm just going to jump in because I know, Jane, you're very keen to get away. So, Jane, where are we up to with your technique?
Right, okay. As I have the longest haircut in the collection, it's important for me to get off stage very quickly. So I've completed my technique. So this is working with the ID, so it's all about keeping that very personal identification towards the texture of the hair and the way that it moves. Now, inspiration for this has actually come from the Classics collection that we released in 2006. And what we did was we actually worked with veil colour, where the colour was placed on the underneath. And it's all solid, so it's all block coloured. Now today what I've done is incorporated root stretching into that. So root stretching the top area so that we make it a little bit more current. So root stretching is where we take the roots deeper and then the ends become lighter. So through this technique I've got triangles through the top, the back, either side. The perimeter is either block coloured or it's root stretched out. Both side areas are the lightest colour to bring out the tones and the textures. Top section is just root stretched all the way through. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jane, and we'll see your model result a little bit later on. I'm going to bring you over to a gentleman now. Now, this is Mattia Spotio, the manager here of our London Academy.
Hi everyone, and welcome again to our show for the 50/50 collection. The model that I'm presenting for you this year is called Fuse. And a fuse is, like you heard earlier on from Jason Gray, is a combination of different inspirations. So the name is coming from fusing inspirations together. As a past reference from our heritage and history of the company, we utilize ideas from a collection that we did in 1984, called Piece by Piece. And the usage of undercut, iconic look in that collection was a haircut that was called the Salon cut. And everything was pushed off the face. We started to using stronger undercutting in the 80s. And then we're looking at the future. So we're looking at texture from current advertising campaign and texture that people in the salon, so models as well, professional models, will wear today. So we were looking at the spring-summer campaign for 13 for Balenciaga, and the texture and the shades within the models that we're wearing in the campaign. So we're fusing these ideas together. The look is a layered mid-length bob, where I've been working today on my model Viva with a square graduation at 90 degrees to really flatten the occipital area and taking quite the weight off, and then switching from horizontally into vertically and rounding that layery through. So again, for thicker hair, you've got a little bit of disconnection, but at the same time, everything is softer and blended in together. Now I'm approaching the last part of the haircut, and what we wanted to create with the look, it was a strong, heavy feeling of texture through the front, and therefore we're going to be working the top area from one side, which is the direction where we want to move the shape, and everything will be again elevated at 90 and very square throughout. So we're making a very softer, taking all the weight off from the top area, and everything will be nice and disheveled. So incorporating a much more 90s inspired texture within the separation that we're seeing in the fringe. And later on we'll come back to see how we're going to progress through the styling and the blow drying. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Mattia. Before we come to you, Cos, Joe's given me a little nod and a wink over this side. So, Joe?